It only takes one drop to create a ripple, one spark to start a fire, one idea to change the world. At KnowBe4, we believe in the power of one. One person, one team, one community, all working together to create something bigger than ourselves. Because in a world where threats evolve every second, it's not just about the technology. It's about the people we must protect. It's about us. Every click, every decision, every action matters. Together, we create a shield that protects what's important. We are the guardians of the digital age. We are the human firewall. We are the difference. This is KnowBe4.
My name is Payal. I'm the Director of Sales, looking after the small, medium businesses and the mid-market side, helping businesses like yourselves, really be one step ahead of the bad guys. I know many of you probably haven't heard about KnowBe4, and that's also one of the key elements that we'd like to go into. But before that, I'd like to kind of share with you what we have lined up for you today. So, first of all, in the next few minutes, we're going to be introducing Mr. Raymond. Raymond is one of the senior account executives with KnowBe4. He's been with us for quite a while now. He's going to be coming in, sharing a bit more about what are some of the biggest challenges in place, many things around what organizations like yourselves face, things around how phishing have really gone into the next level, where AI is really going through different changes and really disrupting operations, compromising different sets of data, and how businesses like yourself can be one step ahead. While Raymond comes in and joins us, after which we're going to go into a bit of a panel discussion where we've got two more speakers coming in, and I'm going to introduce them then and there. Once we've gone through the semantics of that and we've had a bit of a sharing session, we're going to wrap it up with some questions. It's a bit of a tight schedule for today, so please feel free to put your questions into the chat throughout, and then as and when we can, we will get to it. So for now, well, Raymond's going to come in and join us and get the screen sharing up. Let's start with something a little bit more interactive. Let's start with a poll, ladies and gentlemen. If I could just get CJ putting it up. So you see the question here in front of you. What's your biggest challenge in managing human risk in your organization? These are 5 of the more common things that we see, but please fire away. Tell us, what are your pain points? Very nice. I see quite a lot of it with engaging employees. It's definitely something we face time and again. There we go. Still engaging employees, still. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here today, right? We're trying to engage each other and we're trying to really get through that day to day. All right. I see the answers flowing in. And ladies and gentlemen, while we get Raymond up, I just also wanted to share the reason why we've put this question up is because we're seeing time and again, at least 68% of all data breaches stem from human error. And the thing is, it's a bit of a chicken and an egg. You want to fix the problem, but then you're having these challenges, engaging your employees, measuring the effectiveness. And so we really hope that in this 1 hour that we have together today, we're going to be able to identify, uncover, and re-establish the different ground rules so that each one of you can take back something on how we're going to be actively building our strategies for managing human risk. This is what I have for you now. We're going to kickstart the presentation, everybody. So stay in your seats, keep yourself muted, and then we're going to pass it on to Raymond. Raymond, over to you, please.
Okay, can you guys hear me? Cool. Thank you so much, Payal. So now please let me share my screen. Okay. Is my screen up? Can you all see the screen here? Okay. Now, thank you so much everyone for your time today. And welcome to today's webinar. Let me start off with a joke first, right? If hackers had dating profiles, what would they write? Any guesses? You may type on the chat. So I would assume that most of them, they will write, enjoy long works through your network, spending quality time with your sensitive data, and the thrill of finding users who think password is actually a secure password. And unfortunately, those hackers are finding plenty of matches in Asia here, with more than $600 billion lost to these scams. Right, so that is really one expensive dating scene. And jokes aside, as we navigate through 2025, right, the cybersecurity challenges that we face are rapidly evolving, especially here in Asia, where we have seen a 90% increase in social engineering attacks. So in today's sessions, I'll provide you with actionable insights, strategies to address these growing threats. Right. So now, the cyber threat landscape for SMEs in Asia is increasingly sophisticated, with digital infrastructure attacks, data breaches, and ransomware posing significant risks. So SMEs often lack the resources for robust cybersecurity and are particularly vulnerable to these threats as well. And now let me share with you some of the critical data on the current scam across Asia last year. So this information also highlights the severity of financial fraud in the region and identifies the key trends we need to address. So in 2024, right, you can see over here, Thailand, Vietnam, Singapore accounted for at least 20% of all cyber attacks in Asia, right, followed by Philippines at 18, Indonesia 13, and Malaysia at 10%. So can someone make a wild guess how much money has been lost in Asia due to scam last year? Please type on the chat box. So I briefly mentioned this, during the introductory slides earlier on, right? So it was actually $688.42 billion, or $1.3 million lost in every minute. Can you imagine that, guys? Yeah. So these numbers, right, demonstrate that the massive scale of the problem that we are facing now. And looking specifically at Singapore, the top five scams, right, shows concerning trends from 2023 to 2024 as well. So the trend indicates that scammers are continuously adapting their methods, with investment scams and phishing scams being the particularly alarming growth rates. Okay, so that will move us to another slide. So let us discuss, why social engineering remains the dominant threat in the cybersecurity. Yeah, but first of all, what is social engineering? Social engineering is a tactic of manipulating, influencing, or deceiving a victim in order to gain control over the computer system, right? So basically, it uses like psychological manipulation to trick the users into making security mistakes. Yeah. And these are some of the common forms of social engineering, like phishing, spear phishing, pretexting, and so on. So up until today, social engineering is still effective because it relies on the human tendency to trust, fear, and oblige to orders, right? However, as you can see from the slides here, still less than 3% of IT spending goes toward the human layer, even though social engineering already accounted for 90% of all cyber attacks, and it is still growing. But why? Right? Why isn't security awareness training or human layer is not being prioritized? Right? I believe that most of you here will agree that one of the easiest way to hack into your organization is through your human or end users. Right? So these are some of the common techniques used nowadays as well, which is deepfake, which is going very, very popular now. Right? Does anyone know about deepfake? Yeah, so I think you can type on the chat as well. If not, let me give a brief introduction or explanation. It's basically a video or image of a person which their body face that has been digitally edited so that they appear to be someone else, right? Typically used maliciously as well. So for example here, we see AI deepfake scams trick Australians out of $5.2 million in 2023. And the image on the left shows Pope Francis in an unusually fashionable white jacket, right? And over here, we also have the Chinese Elon Musk, right? So these headlines underscore, like why traditional security awareness approach are increasingly inadequate, because these AI generated contents over here, they are used in the scams and often lacks of those obvious red flags that your users have been trained to identify. Agree? Okay. So by 2028, right, Gartner also predicted that 22% of cyber attacks will involve generative AI. Okay. So from here, you can see the screenshots here, how Perry Carpenter, our chief human risk management strategist, was able to defect Taylor Swift and Keanu Reeves. Yeah. Right. So I think at this point of time, we all have to agree that it is harder than ever to spot an AI generated person. Right. So as we have gone through the threat landscape, how are we going to overcome those threats? And that will bring us to the next topic, which is none other than educating and raising awareness within your organizations. So how many of you here are doing security awareness training? Yeah. So I think most people are familiar with security awareness training, right? But what is HRM, or human risk management? Okay. So by the way, before I move on to the next slides, I'll be constantly using these two acronyms, which is the SAT, that stands for Security Awareness Training, and HRM, that stands for Human Risk Management. So now, HRM, right, is actually a cybersecurity approach that focuses on understanding, measuring, and mitigating the risk related to human behavior within an organization. But why? Why do we need to shift from SAT to HRM? Right? So HRM tools actually go beyond the traditional SAT that provides comprehensive capabilities to identify, quantify, and address human-related security vulnerabilities. And there are also several limitations to the traditional SAT as well. For example, one size that fits all approach. It only focuses on awareness and not too much on behavior. And sometimes, there might be lack of measurable outcomes as well. Right? Okay. So with the current evolving threat landscape due to AI, phishing attacks are getting more personalized and harder to spot, especially with those AI-powered threats. And because of that, stricter regulations are usually required in most countries. And that is why implementing HRM is more critical than ever. Okay, so these slides over here, I believe that there might be some familiar logos for some of you here. And in KnowBe4, we use Google, Okta, and also Slack. Right. But how are you guys seeing this data flow between these vendors to create an integrated risk picture? So for example, when your SOC or security team receive the alerts due to your user's risky behavior, does the user get the notification too? Are they being informed as well? Most of the time, no, right? So those informations notification will just sit on the SOC side. The future of effective HRM isn't just about training. It's really about creating intelligent system that integrate with the full security ecosystem to provide like a timely and relevant training based on actual behavioral patterns. So with that, right, we can deliver the highest security guidance at the right moment, which then significantly reduce the human-related security risk as well. Okay. So I would like to focus our attention now on a critical aspect of any effective HRM strategy. So what you are seeing here is actually the KnowBe4 HRM Plus platform that represents the evolution from isolated security awareness training to a unified human risk management approach. So this is very valuable for executive stakeholders who need clear visibility into human risk security factors. Right. So basically, this platform integrates multiple essential capabilities into a single cohesive system, such as security awareness training that forms the foundation, followed by cloud email security, anti-phishing, real-time coaching, compliance training, and last but not least, AI defense agents. So in a nutshell, right, this will actually deliver significant efficiency advantages and eliminate the need to manage multiple tools. Now, in today's digital landscape, your strongest security asset or greatest weakness lies within your human workforce, right? So this topic actually explores how organization can transform the approach to human risk management through a more strategic implementation and meaningful measurement. Okay. But before you start, right, what are the kind of behaviors that are you trying to change from the users? Can you also quantify the business impact in relation to these changes? Okay. So this is the security culture guide. Okay. But before I start, does this cycle looks familiar to some of you here? Yeah, because for me, this look just like my fitness tracker, right? Constantly reminding me that I haven't completed the full circle today, right? So cybersecurity can be overwhelming at some times, but breaking it down into these manageable steps actually makes cultural change more achievable for any organization, right? So many of industry leaders, even with years of experience, they have missed out some steps. And this cyclical model will provide a structured approach to creating a meaningful behavioral change. Okay, so the process usually begins with choosing one or two specific behaviors to focus on rather than attempting to change everything at once. So on the top right corner over here, we have highlighted three behaviors that typically deliver the highest security impact. First is to reduce the fish prompt percentage, which means that we reduce the user's phishing failure rate. And secondly, is to increase the reporting behaviors from the users, right? Encourage them to report anything that looks suspicious or unknown for them. And thirdly, which is to reduce the SOC event notifications or alerts. So after you decided or we decided which behavior to change, we can now start to design a targeted plan to influence these behaviors at scale, right? So by focusing narrowly, we increase our chances of meaningful change as well. So step two is critical, which is to secure leadership buy-in. The culture flows from leadership and executive will support and increase the adoption rates as well. And in step three, we craft compelling communications that explain the why behind security requirements. So when employees understand the reasoning and see the messages reinforced by the leadership team, compliance will increase significantly, right? And in fourth step, this is where the executions takes place, right? So we will conduct like a baseline assessment, engage security advocates throughout the organization, get the feedback, and consistently celebrate wins to build the momentum. And last but not least, step five will close the loop through the measurement and refinement. So this data-driven approach allows us to document real results for leadership while adjusting our strategies based on the outcomes. In a nutshell, as you implement your own HRM strategy, right, this framework can actually provide a practical roadmap that reduce your organization risk profile. Okay, so now let us focus on the crucial perspective shift that will help you to communicate the value of security behavior and culture more effectively. So from this Gartner framework, we can see that there are really only two cybersecurity risks which are truly matter to your business, which is disruption to operations and data breach. So on the left side, we see how various employee-driven operational threats connected to these two core risks, right? And on the right side, these are the business implications that executives care most about. So why is this framework so valuable for human risk management? It basically helps us to position security awareness and cultural initiatives not as technical security activities, but as business risk management. Okay. So these slides here, there are several levels, and this is basically the fitness journey of security. At first, it's painful compliance, but stick with it long enough, eventually it becomes a lifestyle, right? So we can laugh about the journey, but the destination is serious business. So as security culture matures, right? So this blue line over here, the likelihood of breaches will start to decrease. Now, where do you think most of you are at today? Now, please type on the chat box. Three. Yeah, I saw some posted. Three, level three. Right. Good. So I can see that most of you are at level two or level three. And I would say when you are onboarded with Know Before, level three is actually the benchmark. And let me explain to you, like how companies see that growth towards the level three or beyond, right? So at level one, most organizations are just simply checking the regulatory boxes. So they might have security training conducted, once a year, but it's brief, right? So the blue line here and the um, bridge, the risk line, just is still high, right? So it doesn't move the needles. And level two, even though organizations begin to deliver more regular communications and training, it also doesn't significantly move the needle based on the actual security behaviors. So the real transformation will only begin at level three with the programmatic security awareness and behavior. Right. So here, organizations will implement structured programs with targeted content and begin measuring outcomes. So that is where we start seeing more meaningful impact on the risk curve here. So it starts to drop. So the crossover point between 3 and 4, right, represents a critical threshold where your investment in security culture begins delivering exponential returns in risk reduction. So organizations that reach level 4 and 5 usually experience up to 70 to 90% fewer human related security incidents compared to those that are at level 1 or 2. So our goal throughout this webinar is really to help you to advance along this curve here. Okay, and that will bring us to the next slide. For organizations that has already reached level 3 and looking to move up to level 4, the focus will shift from like simply creating awareness to actively managing behaviors through measurement, intervention, and reinforcement to build your human firewall. So these are the security teams. This is where the security teams will integrate like various tools to increase the security footprint across the organizations. And at level 5, this is the pinnacle, right? So at this stage, security will become like embedded in the organization's DNA. So security conscious behaviors are the norm, where employees take personal ownership of security outcomes. Now, we can focus on identifying the specific risky users behavior that will actually deliver the most security impact when things change. These slides majorly highlighted 3 interconnected behaviors that form the foundation of strong security culture. I would like to use a very simple but powerful analogy we all learned as children: how to cross the road. Remember being taught to stop, look, and listen before crossing? Yeah, so this fundamental safety behavior is exactly what we are trying to instill in your security culture. First, we train employees to stop before taking actions on messages, requesting urgent action on or sensitive information, right? Then we teach them to look carefully at email addresses, URLs, and message content for warning sign. And finally, we encourage them to stay alert to their surroundings and their trust their instincts when something doesn't feel right. So to summarize this, successful security awareness programs focus on specific behavioral changes rather than trying to address every possible risk. Right. So these 3 core behaviors over here we have highlighted will create a foundation for meaningful risk reduction. But is this really enough? My ex-CEO, Stu, always say that the hackers is always getting better and better, right? But how are they becoming better? Anyone want to guess? AI, right? So that will move me to my last topic for today, which is AI advancements and using good AI to combat bad AI. So for decades, the security industry has focused on patching vulnerabilities, securing networks, and training humans to recognize increasingly complicated threats, right? But today, we are witnessing something new. AI being weaponized at scale to create threats that bypass traditional defenses and effectively manipulate human psychology. But there's also a powerful reason to optimism. The same technological revolution creating these threats, right, also provide us with defensive capabilities, just as how the bad AI can craft more convincing attacks, the good AI can detect patterns that would be impossible for humans to identify at scale. What you're seeing here is actually the fundamental structure of how AI agent works, whether they are being deployed for malicious purposes or defensive ones. I won't go into details on these phases over here, but if any one of you is interested to find out more, you can reach out to us after this session. Okay? But for security professionals, understanding this cycle provides insight on how to disrupt malicious AI while optimizing the defensive ones. Okay? So these cycles are particularly powerful and yet potentially dangerous. It's because of its continuous nature, right? So each repetition improve the system's effectiveness. And that is why we are seeing such rapid evolution in the AI-based attacks and why our defensive systems must also adapt to these, through continuous learning as well. So this is how the generative AI increase the quantity and quality of phishing scams. What we are seeing here is an alarming success rate where 60% of the victims fell to the AI generated phishing attempts. And how AI reduce the cost is that those previously required skilled human operators, spending significant time to craft those phishing emails can now be generated at scale with minimal cost, right? And with the ability to generate human like text and converse coherently in LLM, such as ChatGPT, it can be used to automate each phase, and that makes the phishing emails more legitimate. In a nutshell, this combination of these three factors, right, will create a perfect storm. Highly effective attacks that can be deployed at massive scale with minimal cost. So traditional awareness approach that rely on users spotting obvious mistakes or inconsistencies are increasingly ineffective against these AI generated threats. Okay, let's now look at the chart that illustrates just how AI is transforming the phishing landscape. So the bar chart on the right shows the phishing success rates across 4 different test conditions. Yeah. So anyone else notice that the AI generated phishing emails are now more successful than your marketing's real email campaigns? Right. Probably, we should swap departments even. Okay. So jokes aside, the data clearly shows that AI powered attacks are achieving success rates nearly 3 times higher than the traditional methods. So the blue bar is the traditional human crafted phishing emails that achieve a 25% success rate, and the red bar shows email created using GPT generated content. So even with the minimal customization, right, these emails already achieve a 37% success rate. Now we look at the yellow bar here, which is the combination of GPT and V-triad framework. So this approach achieved the highest success rate of 74%, nearly tripling the effectiveness of traditional phishing. So for those who are not familiar with V-triad framework, right, it is actually a psychological manipulation techniques. And on the right side here, the green bar, a 62% success rate was achieved with only the V-triad framework, even without using the AI. So what does this survey or results tell you? So this shows that even though psychological manipulation techniques are highly effective on their own, they become even more powerful when combined with those AI generated content. How are security leaders prioritizing these threats among the full spectrum of AI enabled risks now? Okay, so basically, this is how organizations are deploying the good AI defensively across the security systems, right? From continuous threat monitoring all the way to the SOC support, these technologies are helping security teams to scale their capabilities, increase detections accuracy, and respond more quickly to those emerging threats. As we think about implementing effective human risk management, it's critical to integrate with those broader AI security capabilities. So by connecting human risk management data with security automation and threat intelligence, organizations can create a more comprehensive defense against increasingly complicated AI-powered attacks. But the questions becomes like, how do we specifically harness these AI capabilities to strengthen the human layer? Okay, so we have introduced you the bad AI and the good AI, right? Now, let me introduce you the best AI. Know before IDA, right? Which is our AI-driven approach that represents the next evolution in security awareness programs. First, it begins with events, which means that the continuous collection of security behavior data across your organizations, like phishing simulation responses, training interactions, and more. These data will then fit into the smart risk agent, okay, which applies the machine learning to assess users' risk with greater accuracy than those traditional methods. So rather than treating all the users identically, right, smart risk agent over here will create like a dynamic risk profile based on the observed behaviors, like like what is the job roles, access levels, and also the environmental factors. The system will then the system will then generate insights and risk scores, which provides accurate visibility into your human risk landscape. Yeah. So security teams will actually receive like an actionable intelligence about specific behavioral patterns, department trends, and emerging vulnerabilities. So all presented in a business relevant context rather than technical metrics. And finally, IDA itself represents the autonomous response, right? Capability and will automatically deploys those personalized um, designs to address the specific behavior patterns and risk factors. So with all this discussion about advanced technology and AI capabilities, I want to emphasize a fundamental truth that remains constant regardless of how advanced our tools become. So at the end of the day, right, cybersecurity is fundamentally about people. So this simple yet powerful visual remind us of what we are trying to achieve. Every single person in your organization plays an important role in protecting your company. So together, they will form your human firewall, like what you see here, right? Which is your last line of defense against the threats we have discussed today. The most advanced AI systems and technical controls can reduce risk, but they cannot eliminate it. So when employees understand, like not just what to do, but why it matters, or when they feel personally invested in security, they'll become active participants rather than passive recipients of security policies. Right. So this cultural shift actually represents the ultimate goal of everything we have discussed today. As we close this session, I encourage all of you here to reflect on how do your workforce in security terms. Are they just compliance subjects to be managed? Or are they active partners in your defense strategy? Okay, I think that's all from my side. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Raymond. Everyone, I know we're all virtual here, but let's give a virtual round of applause for Raymond. That was a very, very insightful session around how we're transitioning the human risk management scene. Raymond, thank you again. Please just stay with us as we move into the next part of the session.
Yep.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as we see, Raymond's really gone through with us the whole paradigm of what it moves like beyond awareness. And I don't know about you, but for me, one of the biggest things that stuck is really the human firewall advantage, transforming our workforce. Some of you in the poll earlier said engaging your workforce is one of the more challenging things. And that's really where Raymond came in to say, but if we successfully focus on managing that risk, three big things come out of it. We turn passive participants into active defenders. Security liabilities now become security assets, and compliance burdens now become business enablers. So as you can see, the full 360 really comes together. And that's why the next part of the session is going to be what keeps you on your chair. You've already met Raymond. Raymond's a familiar face, but please let me introduce the two other gentlemen. While they might not be known to you, they're very, very well known in the industry. And the best part is they've made time to come down today and join us. First, we have Mr. Daniel Louis joining us. Mr. Daniel is an IT exec, over 20 years of experience. I've had the honor of working with him at Know before. He's been in various different touch points within not just APAC, but Europe as well. So he comes with that level of industry experience in pharma, healthcare, supply chain, and manufacturing, which I know a lot of you are from today. The best part about it is that Daniel, being from Pacific Healthcare Group, comes with that view of how in this day and age, patient data, the threats that come in from phishing, the threats that come in from the loss of the database, that's really where we're going to be circling around. We have that. Daniel's going to be joining us in a minute. And then we have Mr. Shishir Kumar Singh, who's also joining us with over 14 years of IT experience. Well, he joins us as the Group Head of Information Security at Advanced Intelligence Group. I thought it would be worth mentioning that one of the subsidiaries is someone very, very well known to many of you because you use it in your day-to-day. Tommy Pay is one of those that is under AIG. He's coming in today to share really more of how he spearheads the cybersecurity strategies, how he aligns it with all the different industrial requirements, how he works with the objectives of the core competencies of strategic leadership. So that's really why we've put together this panel today of Raymond, Daniel, and Shishir. Please, let's give a virtual round of applause as they join us in the room. Perfect. I see them joining in. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Shishir. Are you with us already?
Hi. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Daniel. Shishir, just to check if it's all up and running for you, please.
Yes, it does. Let me just get my camera turned on.
Daniel, I'm sure you had the ability to listen to a bit of Raymond's presentation as well.
Yes, I learned a few things more than what I learned before. Very good, Raymond. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the good words.
Wow, Shishir, that's quite a nice background.
It's one of the background that we have picked it up from our training program.
Very exciting, and I'm sure we're going to hear all about that. Well, look, gentlemen, thank you again for your time this morning. We have a whole line of things that we would love to talk about. And as you heard as well from Raymond's presentation, there's been this constant regional shift because of the way cyber threats are specifically targeting Asian SMEs. In the past, we were working on links that were very easy to identify, and then we got trained on identifying phishing. However, as Raymond shared, the AI of today is getting smarter and smarter. And for the two of you especially, the day-to-days that you work with, you know, I think that would be a great sharing session with everyone. So we're going to kickstart the session. We've got about 20 minutes. I'm going to go with the questions, and then we're going to take some time to really delve into it. The first question, Daniel, I would like to have that with you, and then we'll pass it on to Shishir and to Raymond. The very first question is specific to your role and specific to what you see in your organization. What are some kinds of social engineering threats that are becoming more and more common?
Right. Thanks. You're right that earlier days, maybe 5 years ago, we are talking about just link come in and we using go over to check the link. But what we observe getting more and more phishing or scam, either from emails or from other social media platforms like WhatsApp and Line Group. They are getting more personalized. It's no longer a general purpose, general bars of the emails. They are more targeting. First observation. Second is the structure or the body of the message are getting more perfect. Previously, we teaching people looking for misspelling with the structure, the formatting. Now they are near perfect. So it's getting more and more difficult to spot. And it also means that the attacker actually know that their target, that the person know more than before. Obviously, most of them through social engineering, and both in the personal part and also the business social engineering, so business platform like LinkedIn. So there's a lot of data they can play on to know their targets.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Daniel. And you're right. We're seeing more and more personalized email phishing, very targeted to your designation, to your industry, so much so even getting information from your LinkedIn to make it as personalized as possible. What about for you, Shishir? Is this something that overlaps, or do you see something a little bit trending differently?
I think it's one of the common trend, but if I have to put it out in a way that at the top of the list for us, credential-based attacks are the one which are most prevalent. I would say phishing, MFA fatigue, password spraying attacks are the common entry points which attackers are trying to get into our environment or any of the organizations. Probably, I would say the major difference is that the AI is there, Gen AI is there, which has which is able to help create more believable phishing emails, perfectly mimicking the internal comm styles, hijacking trusted threads. And these aren't just English-based either, right? So they are able to do it local language targeting. Earlier, it was much easier for us to differentiate whether someone is writing it manually or some attackers are doing it, or is it official email and all. But now local language mimicking is also possible, which is one of the challenges that everyone is facing. We are also facing the similar thing. Secondly, I would say is supply chain risk and third-party compromises are the one of the risks that we are struggling with, and the entire organization is working. Not only entire organization, I would say the entire industry is working towards fixing the issues, how to ensure that the supply chain attacks are being handled well effectively. And then I would say another piece, which is more on the cloud misconfiguration exploits and shadow IT incidents, which are difficult to address unless and until you have very stringent controls over your endpoints. So that is where the bigger challenges are. But social engineering attacks is one of the major challenge, I would say.
And that's a great point. While you mentioned that the social engineering attacks, some of them are pretty basic, you would realize that while for some of us it's basic, while some organizations have already identified and uncovered how to deal with the very basics of teaching their employees to look out for misspelling, to look out for red flags, the bad guys have gone to the next level, right? It's like we have to constantly play this catch-up game. And it's interesting to hear it from both your perspectives because you sit in that different aspects of the role and you see it in a day-to-day. But Raymond, for you, working at KnowBe4 and really working with, these small, medium businesses, identifying their challenges, what kind of threats are you commonly seeing across your customers and prospects?
Right. So I think based on what I'm seeing across the global customers, right, there are several threats that are dominating the landscape. like the AI-powered and QR code phishing attacks that have gained significant traction in recent years, right? Especially here in Asia. Business email compromise, BEC, has also becoming increasingly complicated with attackers researching organization charts to create like targeted or more personalized attacks, like what Daniel mentioned earlier, right? Other than that, there's also another one, which is the supply chain vulnerabilities. So Shisha mentioned about this. So in fact, I think in recent weeks, right, there are actually a few customers who came to me. They told me that they received email from their bad actors, pretending to be pretending to be the vendor, and ask them to make payment. And the time was just nice. They know exactly, what's the time that they need to make payment, and that's where the email comes in. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's pretty much.
I see all three of you nodding in parallel. Really, this is so real, everybody, right? Ladies and gentlemen in the call as well. What we're really seeing here is, as Shishir, Daniel, and Raymond shared, what are some of the social engineering threats? I think we can all agree AI is dominating the scene. AI is not the way it was before. My CEO shows up every morning in our daily stand-up meeting that we have, and the word that comes out of his mouth is agentic AI. Imagine that. We're still grappling with the day-to-day of understanding how the bad guys are using AI-enabled phishing trends. But now we're moving into the next phase of not just AI-enabled phishing trends, but a system that can think, look, see, and act on its own. So it's very nice to hear that this is one of the more common things that the three of you are seeing, the three of you are facing. But there is one question here that I think we also need to address. The answer may seem simple, but the question really is around this. When we talk about security awareness training, as you saw in the presentation done by Raymond earlier, there are different levels in place. We have the basic level where people are still trying to understand compliance. We have level 3 where people are at a certain level of training, albeit manually. And then we have people trying to move to level 4, level 5. What we are seeing is security awareness training, the whole notion of traditionally, it's changing, it's shifting. But I think it would be helpful to also understand from the three of you, from your experience, what are some of the specific limitations of traditional security awareness training, SAT, that is really prompting your organization to shift towards human risk management frameworks? I think it would be very helpful for everyone to learn from that. Daniel, may I position this to you first, please?
Right, yes. I remember the old day that when we doing the traditional security awareness training, we have a program, we create our own material, we send out to everyone in the organization. The only measurement is, are they going to complete it on time? And what percentage achieve at the end of the deadline? This is the only measurement we have. And of course, the limitation is this all compliant driven. We just tick the box and we move on. We do not know whether any behavior change. We don't know who are more risk than the other person. Is all generic general material, and we don't even target it. Who are the most risky, most high value customer to the attacker? So all the traditional are really just tick the box. It's maybe relatively easy to implement, but there's a questionable effectiveness of those approaches.
I understand that. And it's true, right? You don't want it to be a bit of a checkbox exercise. And what you've seen over your career, Daniel, is you see that transition, right? Away from the whole checkbox exercise towards a bit more focalized sharing and training. Shishir, for you, I'd like to understand, because of the industry that you're in, I would also be assuming, based on your background, already it says so much, right? You've got those two Green Lantern look-alike figures at the back. So, just from your perspective as well, the move away from traditional security awareness training, what have been those prompts? What is the value you see in that?
I think I will link it up to the image that you see at my background, right? So when we look at the traditional SAT models, we end up treating users as a liability rather than enablers.
Yeah.
Most of the time, we end up saying that people are the weakest link. But as an organization, our initiative is always to make them, they are the strongest link if they know what they need to take care of, right? From what kind of attacks they need to be careful, what kind of emails that they should be trying to avoid and report. So that is where we rolled up a couple of programs within the organization. So we called it Cyber Collaboration Nexus and Cyber Culture Evolution Program. So that we initiated a couple of years before, and that is where we created these images, ambassador programs, and various other things. So that has helped us manage these things. So the issue what we face from the traditional SAT platforms are that we always used to see it as one size fits all annual training model. So one training which we used to roll it out to everyone, and where people are just completing those trainings just for the heck of completion and all, just to meet the compliance requirement, just a tick box into their checklist. And so that is where the entire human risk management framework from a learning perspective was little not developed, I would say. But nowadays, what you see is when we get into risk-based coaching, risk-based awareness, so we are able to devise these trainings depending on different organizations, different BUs, different entities, different departments. So that is where the major shift is happening. When I speak about risk-based coaching, right, where employees gets regular nudges, simulation training tailored to their risk profile, not a very long training, probably a 1-minute video, 1-minute session, where people get to see what exactly they are required to be careful of and what they should be looking to do. So that is what I see is the recent change into the entire human risk management framework, that moving from traditional SAT to the new SAT model. So that is what I would say.
Yeah. And that makes perfect sense, right? Shishir, it can't be only one hand pushing, because if we're just pushing like what Daniel mentioned on the traditional front, if there is no mindset shift on the employees, there is never going to be that value seen, right? And while I pass it on to Raymond, I also wanted to share at KnowBe4, it's the same thing. Daniel, I can see you smiling because you already know what's coming. Even for us as employees, we also are in that mindset shift. We're really about building awareness. We're looking at our behaviors and changing our culture. What I mean by that is, for everyone in the call to understand, is we are also phished. We also receive phishing emails. I personally receive phishing emails from my VP asking for the sales forecast to fill up the link, and that's a phish. So it's about how the new age learning adapts with the style of the generation and the requirements of today. And you couldn't have said it better, Shishir. So thank you very much for bringing that up. And Raymond, to you, if I could just turn it around a little bit as we look at wrapping up this session. For you, when you work, especially with the SMBs in Asia, many of them in non-mature markets are still focused on traditional methods of SAT. What have you seen are some of the key reasons why they choose to move away so that the others can learn from it and prevent themselves from being in a situation?
Yep, thank you, Paya. Good questions. So I would say reasons why customers they move towards the HRM is they know that security awareness training remains essential, and but also it's more like measuring knowledge versus behavior change, right? So traditional security awareness training successfully passes on knowledge, but struggles to demonstrate lasting behavioral change. So they will still see that users engage in risky behaviors and not reporting those like suspicious emails, right? And besides that, I would say there are also like limited integration with those traditional SAT platform rather than connecting human risk insights, with broader security operations and technology stacks. Yeah, so that's mainly what I receive from the customers. Yeah, thank you.
And that makes sense, right? I see Shir and Daniel also kind of nodding on that. Daniel, would you agree, especially in the healthcare space, where you have a whole variation of different kinds of employees, and everybody has a different understanding of what security awareness training is and the importance of patient healthcare data? Do you see this as one of the obstacles whenever you and your team try to put in new awareness training methodologies?
Yeah, of course, what Raymond says is reflecting, I will say, it's all industry, including ours. The behavior change is something that I think these seminars talk about is very important. Not just put out the awareness program, but the measurement of what impact it makes to the company, what behavior change. We need something which I think know before we'll have a solution for that, is to how to measure the behavior change, and which is not one step. We have to continue. For me, I've been doing this journey for so many years, 5 years, 7 years, keep doing it. But every time we have new techniques, we change with the industry, we change with what have been on the cyber world, what attackers, intelligence. Now come with AI enabled targeting is another level of playing field that we have at the moment.
Exactly, right. And so that's really where, we're seeing this panel discussion come to life. We've seen how, number one, we're really moving away from the traditional social engineering. Now we're no longer just talking about what we used to talk about 3 to 5 years ago. Now it's that next level, that level of email phishing, personalization, the whole Gen AI, like Shishir mentioned, the localization element as well, which is getting ahead of the game, the whole supply chain risks that they bring into this conversation, going to the next level of always making sure that you're one step ahead with your employees, constantly engaging them, making sure that whatever you bring in from a traditional security awareness training no longer stands as something just checking the box or just being something boring and mundane that they have to do. And ultimately, really about looking at the behavior, looking at the attitude change. Gentlemen, I think there are so many more questions that are popping up in the chat box, but we are at our time. There will be questions, there will be follow-ups. I'm sure people will be adding you on LinkedIn as well. We're going to keep this conversation going. But before we wrap it up, I have one question, a bit of a personal question that I think everybody here will appreciate today. And this is specifically to you, Shishir, and to you, Daniel, from the experience that you bring from your background and from your roles as well. Everyone, I'm sure, is very excited to hear from you. The question I have is cheesy. What advice do you have for your fellow peers, your fellow CIOs, IT professionals that are in this call today? Because they have joined for a reason. They're here to navigate through that changing times, work better with their employees, work better with their vendors to strengthen the whole human risk management game. I'm sure they would love to hear from the two of you. Any tidbits, any nuggets? Daniel has been the one starting this the whole morning. So I'm going to pass it to you, Shishir, to kick us off with the final question.
Okay. So I will give 3 suggestions. I think many of the people might be knowing it already. First, shift the mindset from awareness to behavioral change. Traditional checkbox training is not going to work it out. You have to move it to a behavioral change. Integrate security into business culture, and it shouldn't be just IT. Right? So unless only there is a cultural change from business perspective, the prevalent changes will be a little difficult to make it out. And definitely choose your vendors who acts as a partner, not just providers. So that is where it is going to be the key.
Wow. I'm just going to start writing all of that down. Thank you so much for that, Shishir. I think that's definitely something that everyone's really taking in with their day-to-day. What about you, Daniel? Also coming from the fact that we've been working together for a while.
Right. Shisha already talked about the user side, the business side, how we should change behavior, which I totally agree. I like to address a totally different point, which is back to our IT professional, all the security officers, CIO. We have so much work, not only fighting cyber attack, but other tasks as well. We are already overwhelming with all the daily tasks, and we have a limited team member. It takes time and effort to go through the awareness program, to change the culture of the company. If we continue every day, spend that much of effort to do the same thing routinely, it is a way to better use our time. Find a way to automate all the training, security awareness training, to relieve you from your team from the operational tasks, and focusing only on the high-risk user profile and the new threat coming from outside. So previously, if your security awareness training is not under control, you always need to follow up with the user and then keep chasing up with do the training and things. But please get some automation, get it under control. Then you would rather spend more time with your user, placing them. They are spotting all the threats and they're preventing phishing, and use our time to focusing more productive work. Thank you.
Thank you. That was really brilliantly said. And I think every single one, of the attendees today faced that, because there is always going to be that gap in the workforce, the number of employees that you have, and it's about really understanding the basics. I don't think I could have asked for a better way to end this session. Shishir, Daniel, Raymond, thank you so much for your time. Everybody, please, let's give them a virtual round of applause. It's been very, very insightful. It's a journey we're all going through. We're going to carry on going through it. And the most important thing is that we learn from each other. A big thank you. And you can now leave the stage as we wrap up this session. A big, big thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know we've come to time. There are some questions in the channel, in the group chat, that Elvin has been responding on. What we will do is, after this session, we will also get in touch. We're really, really grateful for this partnership between KnowBe4 and CyberSecAsia. We will be getting in touch to make sure that it is all going through with all the responses that you need. For now, as we wrap up the session, I hope that each one of you takes away these 5 critical things that were discussed today. The first is, as everyone mentioned in the panel, the regional focus, especially for Asian SMEs like yourself, understanding those cyber threats and moving away from them. The second, strategic shifts. Again, moving away from the traditional notion of SATs as a checkbox towards what we've been calling the human risk management wave. The third, regulatory navigation. Each one of you comes from different markets. I saw some of you from Indonesia, from Malaysia, from Singapore, even from Philippines. Understanding your local compliance requirements and making sure you partner with a vendor aligned with these requirements to drive those real outcomes. The fourth, everybody's favorite word, AI. Really make sure that you're leveraging the good AI to combat the bad AI. And the last one, as Raymond mentioned time and again in his presentation, a good measurement framework. These are the 5 key things I hope everybody takes away from today. And once again, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We're looking forward to keeping in touch with each one of you and working together moving forward. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.